Welcome back. I'm joined now by Daniel Seahorn. We're going to talk some college football. Big news. It's been a big week in college football. A lot going on in Texas with Kevin Sumlin, Charlie Strong, and then some big news just came across Twitter. T. Martin has been promoted to the offensive coordinator position at the University of South Carolina. We'll talk about that as well. So without further ado, Coach Seahorn, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. It's very exciting times. By the way, I want to get your thoughts on Butch Jones, too, if you don't mind. I'm so thankful Coach Seahorn was so gracious to do this on a little bit of a short notice when the news, the Kyler Murray news came down yesterday. It's really kind of, I don't know that you would call it head-scratching, but it's certainly eventful in college football.
Mm. I mean, it's definitely a bit of a head-scratcher when you think all things considered with Kyler Murray and his dad. You know, he played quarterback at Texas A&M back in the 80s. I mean, you know, he's an Aggie legacy, and he was committed to Texas A&M for so long. It was such an instrumental part of their recruiting class last year.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. And then on top of that, you had Kyle Allen, who literally a week ago said he was out too. So that makes it even more interesting to me.
I've heard a lot of people say that his decommitment or his leaving was the bigger issue. What's going on? Tell us what's going on. Help us make sense of what's going on with Kevin Sumlin at TAMU.
Well, the long and short of the whole situation right now is, you know, Kyler Murray and Kyle Allen actually were pretty tight, and they talked about what was the whole situation going on, and the foundation of the whole deal was that they didn't really trust the coach. They didn't trust the direction of where they're going, you know, direction of the program, what the offense is going to be like, all of that. I mean, clearly, whenever you have basically both of your starting quarterbacks, guys who both had, you know, long starts this year for you, when they say, I'm out, at the same time within a week of each other, there's obviously some underlying problems there going on in the station.
What do you think is going on? I mean, this kind of goes back to the Kenny Trail days, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's just, let's see, how do I put it? I mean, it seems like there's a bit of a culture problem, really. I mean, that's really what the long and short of it, because you got to think, you know, Kevin Sumlin recruited these guys. You know, he got them in there. You know, he got them in their locker room, and then all of a sudden, you know, ever since the Johnny Manziel days, you know, and ever since they handed the program off to like Kenny Hill and stuff like that, the things have started going downhill ever since. Yeah. You got to think, they went from Johnny Manziel winning the Heisman, you know, beating Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl, and it has slowly been a downward trend ever since.
It really has been. Is Kevin Sumlin in trouble?
I mean, he's in trouble, but here's the problem with Texas A&M and getting rid of Kevin Sumlin. They're going to owe him about $20 million. I believe that's about what the going rate would be to get rid of him.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And for Texas A&M, their problem would be something similar to what LSU's problem was with wanting to get rid of Les Miles. That's a lot of money to make somebody go away, and then you got to think about getting, you know, the assistants you would have to buy out, and then you have to get a new coach, probably get his buyout done, and then get his assistants in. That's a lot of money. You probably started about $30 million.
Right.
At the end of the day.
I can almost understand the Kevin Sumlin situation a little bit more than and listen, LSU underperformed. There's no question this year. They were a better football team than their record, but Les Miles has done a lot for that program and has been a winning coach at that school. And but on the other hand, I truly, madly, deeply love Kevin Sumlin. So you know, I would hate to see something happen with him. What do you think in the short term? What is Kevin Sumlin's future?
I mean, he's going to have to win big in 2016, because at this point, I think if you I don't know what you're going to do if you try to fire him now and try to pay all that money. But I think he's going to be back for 2016, but I think he's going to be something similar to what's happening down here in Austin. He's going to have to win a lot of games. Like, I think he might have to win 10.
Right.
You know, to make people feel better, because, I mean, I've already heard rumors that people down there in College Station want to buy him out. They're done, they're out, but they know it's going to cost a lot of money, so they may have to, you know, wait it out another year.
they're trying to spin this like, and maybe there's some truth here. Does he want to play football? Does he want to play baseball? The spin is that he wants to play baseball more than football.
Oh, well, here's the thing about Kyler. He's got his future is as a baseball player. That is the fact. He is not going to be an NFL quarterback. Everybody knows that.
He's too short, right?
Yeah, he's 5'10", 185 pounds soaking wet. I mean, the kid was a great high school quarterback. Let's not get it wrong, but that know, even the college and the NFL level is a whole other animal than that. And there was talk that if he would have gone to the major league straight out of high school, he could have been a first rounder. He could have been at least looking at $1 million signing bonus. So, I mean, he could. That probably is the best career decision if he just should go somewhere, play baseball strictly, or go to a junior college, play a year, and then declare and go play baseball for the rest of his life. I mean, that might be the best decision for him career-wise. But people are talking behind the scenes say that he still wants to play football. So here we are.
Right. It's an interesting question, and people on a couple of things about the Kyler Murray thing. I want to talk. I love Kirk Herbstreit. I love him. You know, he is probably the most attractive Nashvilleian in the city. He's not hard on the eyes, but he had something to say on Twitter yesterday that I really disagreed with. He said, basically, I'm probably going to paraphrase poorly, and I don't know how old Kyler Murray is. He's 18, 19 years old, right? A young kid like that should know what he wants to do before playing a year of football, and I just don't agree with that. He's a young guy. He's trying to figure out what he wants to do. I mean, I think that we forget, you know, that double and triple athletes, that used to be more the norm than the exception.
I mean, kids change their minds every 5 minutes these days, so I don't necessarily agree with him. He needs to know what he should know then. But, I changed my major 4 times in college in like the first 2 years. You know, I tell people, and it's tough. I mean, these kids are put under a lot of pressure, especially everybody has to understand the optics of how the recruiting process works these days. There's a lot of pressure on these kids, and a lot of pressure from a lot of different angles coming in on kids, and especially in his situation. You know, when he was getting recruited, you know, everybody just assumed he was locked into Texas A&M, and then here comes Texas, and, you know, and him almost flipping to the rival of Texas A&M. And, you know, people were wondering, like, who was pushing the buttons behind the scenes, how hard the other coaches were working, you know, to try to get him to change his commitment, and then what was Texas A&M doing to, you know, to smooth over matters to make sure he did end up in College Station, all this stuff. And then he's already being hailed as the savior of the program before he even gets on campus.
It's crazy. You know, it's interesting, too, and I don't like to ever, you know, wave the race card or anything, but kids transfer all the time these days. It's a lot more common. Transfer, leave, do other things. I don't even know what Butch Jones' attrition rate is. I mean, he's lost commits. Guys change their mind, but it does seem like it's harsher for guys like Charlie Strong and Kevin Sumlin.
Yeah, it happens, man. Kids transfer. I mean, I will say, over like the past couple of years, I feel like kids are making those decisions much quicker. Like some kids are getting on campus and they don't even make it through camp, and they're like, okay, I'm out. So I will say that has seemed much different than what we've seen in the past. But there's another side of that coin. The kids suddenly realize that this is not where I want to be. You might as well get that decision out the way now.
Exactly.
And get it out the way. So let's go.
And it's really unfair to kids because, coaches can come and go and leave without much impunity. Yet with the transfer rules and all that, it's really weighted unfairly against the student. Well, we shouldn't even call them student athlete. The commits. Let's just call them the commits.
Yeah, so you're stepping into a whole other territory right there, because we could talk a whole hour about how how the ramifications for transferring for a player, for a coach wanting to leave, and getting out of a contract and go to another job. That's a whole other ball game right there.
That's a can of worms right now.
On that.
Yeah, we really should talk about that sometime. Have a show where we focus a lot on some of the things that the NCAA really should do differently. But what time doesn't allow today, there's a lot. I want to ask you about Les Miles since we brought him up a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that situation? It does seem like Les Miles' tenure at LSU is going to come to an end sooner rather than later.
Well, this is what I'm going to say about this, because I went in pretty deep on Twitter about how I felt about how they handled that whole thing.
It was
First
bad.
of all, the athletic director and whoever else was pulling the strings behind that, I mean, I don't want to cuss on your podcast, but they should feel really, really horrible about how they treated him. Basically, without even coming to his defense, they let all those groomers and all the speculation just kind of hang out there, and they didn't come out and say anything. But all of a sudden, we in the last game of the season, during the game, we want to make the decision that he can stay, but it's basically because you got told no by Jimbo Fisher. It was a bunch of crap. Like, the guy deserves better than that. Like, come on, man. You're gonna fire somebody.
Yeah.
You're gonna fire somebody.
I had Ben Tripp on here, and we talked about that. He said Jimbo Fisher isn't even in the same discussion as Les Miles. It's kind of hard to disagree with that, even though, Jimbo Fisher benefited by a great college quarterback in Jameis Winston, who, is really starting to improve and do a lot better in the National Football League. Yeah, Kelvin Benjamin and a number of NFL caliber players on that roster. How would you compare the two?
I mean, to be honest, it's really about a push. It would be a push, which is why when I was thinking about, okay, you want to go get Jimbo, I'm just like, but is he really that much better? Is where I was at on the whole thing.
I wouldn't think so.
That's if you're gonna can a guy like Les Miles, you have to have a slam dunk hire that is gonna be, hands down is gonna be better, because he's been pretty successful at LSU. I mean, he has a national title. So does Jimbo. They constantly recruit well. So does Jimbo. I mean, LSU was playing in another national title. I mean, Jimbo and them made the playoff last year. So I mean, it's about the same to me. They both won a lot of games. They've come up short a couple of times. What it is, what it is. It's like, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know. The only thing I could see about it being better for Jimbo is the ability to recruit and develop quarterbacks. And that's one thing that Les has not been able to do. Yeah. So that's the only thing I could really come to when it comes to that comparison.
I think that's a good point. It's definitely becoming, much more a quarterback-driven, system in college. And it's always sort of been that way in the pros. We don't probably have time to talk about this either, but there is at least a discussion going on what kind of talent, is being developed early on that, makes these guys successful. Is it Kevin Sumlin or Charlie Strong who's infamous for converting his quarterbacks to safety?
Oh no, that was neither of them. That was people on Mac Brown for always offering those quarterbacks coming out of high school as quarterbacks. That was
okay.
Mac.
So they were talking about Texas, and they threw. I got you. So since we're talking about him, I love Charlie Strong. He's been, kind of the topic of some off-season discussion. What do you think his future is at Texas?
Got to win. Got to win this year. I mean, at the end of the day, he has to win games, and I mean, people were ready to get rid of him this year, but in any situation, when you come into the situation like Charlie did, he needed time to to do a complete overhaul of the program. So giving him 2 years wouldn't have been fair. I mean, cutting ties before he got 2 real recruiting classes into the boat wouldn't have been fair in my book.
It's completely unfair.
Yeah. So he's this next year he'll have 2 recruiting classes in. I mean, we've all. I mean, I've watched every game this year, so I've seen the amount of talent that is underclassmen in the program right now, and if he's able to add on to what's already had to play and get experience, I think the program has a chance to be much better than what it's been in the past. He just needs time. But and the main thing is he's got to find a quarterback. You don't have one until you have one. It is what it is. And he's got to do whatever he can to find a quarterback. I mean, he just hired a new offensive coordinator. So they're gonna start running more of it's more of the Art Browse Baylor style offense. You know, it's with Sterling Gilbert. You know what they were doing in Tulsa, in Bowling Green, and Eastern Illinois with Jimmy Garoppolo. So he's got, you know. So now you're gonna have the exciting offense that everybody wants to see. You know, but you got to have the trigger man. You have to have it. So now this is why it gets so interesting now, because with the whole Kyler Murray situation, when you recruited him hard up until the very end in January, and now even though he'd have to sit out a year, you might potentially be able to get him in the boat again and then put that offense on the field, and it could. You never know what could happen, but there's so many moving parts to that whole deal. We don't even know if it's a slam dunk that Texas will go after him, but after the way this thing just played out in public, you know, all week. So we don't know if he'll even be able to slam dunk with that. But Charlie has to find him a quarterback, or if he does something similar to what happened this year, or only wins 7 games or something like that, I'm not sure he's going to be able to keep his job. I think the bar is going to be at least 8 or 9 games, and the schedule is not going to be much easier than what it was this year.
The Cases went 5-7. They didn't make a bowl game. They're 7th in the Big 12. But you know, I mean, he really did have a mess to clean up. He had such a mess on his hands. He had to clean up the culture. There were so many things that he had to do that. They really should give him, I agree with you, at least 2 more years, if not longer than that. We'll see how that plays out. I want to ask you about Tennessee football and some things related to Tennessee football. But before I do, Will Muschamp to South Carolina, is that a good move or not?
Bad fit. I think it's a bad fit, and I think I wrote an article that I thought that South Carolina was one of the losers of the coaching carousel this year, because they essentially got turned down about 3 times before they got down to Will Muschamp. So I felt like any big coach that was on the market, I would have been apprehensive about them going to South Carolina, because they have a huge rebuild. You got to think the amount of talent that South Carolina used to have, like, you know, even just like a few years ago. And look at what they have on the field. They put on the field the past couple of years. It's just not there, especially on, you know, the offensive side of the ball. I mean, even if the offense wasn't up to par, they at least had some bad dudes on defense. And they don't even have that anymore. So, and I just don't know if Will Muschamp, you know, I know he's going to probably get some defensive talent in there, but he even showed at Florida that he couldn't really put good offensive playmakers on the field. So, not recruit him at least. And he definitely doesn't have a quarterback, so that's not going to help things. And then he went out and hired the same offensive coordinator he had at Florida. So I'm not sure if he learned from his mistakes at Florida. So,
I think that's I completely agree with that. That was funny, and there's so many other things we could say about that. Tennessee football, Butch Jones didn't get an extension this time. He just got one last December. But Tennessee did give him a raise. Now, in all fairness, you know, he's doing a great job recruiting. Tennessee's record was a lot better than it has been in a long, long time, making another bowl game. But I'm still very much in prove it to me mode. I don't think Butch Jones has, in his staff, they have a lot of room to grow in terms of the X's and O's and the game day coaching. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I think, like you said, he's been recruiting his butt off. That's one thing he can say. So the talent's going to be there, so the excuses are about to run out. And especially being over in the SEC East, which is not, you know, ultra competitive right now. I mean, coming back next year, they're going to have some talent. I mean, it's a real deal talent. So like, it's going to be 2016 is going to be a really big year for Butch. I mean, you're going to have Dobbs back. You're going to have a two-headed monster running back. You got guys out wide who can play. I mean, let's go. I mean, and you're going to have young defensive talent as well. There's a couple of upperclassmen that are going to be able to ball out on the defensive side of the ball as well. So it's nut cutting time. That's plain and simple.
It really is. No, I completely agree. There's no reason whatsoever that Tennessee did not win the SEC East. That's the bottom line. And if they do not win it next year, you know, I think with the extension and everything, Butch Jones is definitely, of course, safe for next year. And I think probably after that, I think the trajectory is 2 more years, and then, you know, we'll see what happens. But if Tennessee doesn't win the SEC East next year, there's definitely something wrong. I had an opportunity to sit down with Matt Waldman, and do some scouting on their young quarterback. What are your thoughts on him?
No, you're talking about Tennessee's young quarterback.
Yes.
Gosh, he's from Texas too. His name slips my mind.
It's mine too. I know, right? That's what I was like. Tennessee quarterback. I'm gonna have to look it up real quick. And
I remember him enrolling early, and I remember him. He was a guy I actually wanted Texas to look at, and maybe an offer but the thing was he was coming off of an injury from the year before.
Right.
And so I think they were apprehensive about it, but he ended up playing really well, and he got more offers. Texas didn't offer him, and he goes out to Tennessee, and he's playing early already. So it could have been a situation like that. That could have been your guy. So I mean, so it's a bit of a bummer, for the folks out here, but. Hindsight is 20/20, but hey, that's something that I think Texas could have ended up looking back on and we said they should have pulled the trigger on.
Yeah.
So it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking his name up real quick, so bear with me.
I want to say it's Dormandy, I think his last name, or something like that. I forgot it.
But no, you're talking about the guy behind him. I'm talking about Joshua Dobbs.
Oh, you're talking about Dobbs. I thought you said young quarterback. I thought you were talking about the kid, the younger kid.
Yeah. No, they've got some young talent behind Josh Dobbs, no question. Yes.
But Josh Dobbs, yeah. No, Josh Dobbs I thought was a guy who was going to surprise a lot of people this year. And I actually, I do like college fantasy football and stuff like that. He was one of my guys I made sure I picked up because I thought because with the supporting cast around him, I thought he had a chance to do some things.
Yeah.
And he ran a lot more than I thought he was going into the year. I was expecting him probably to line it up a little bit more throwing the ball, but he used his legs an awful lot this year. So that was hey, you got to get it how you can. But,
you do. I thought they should have let unleashed him a little bit more earlier on. You're not going to get any better if you're not throwing the ball, and so we'll see how that whole situation plays out. Big news on Twitter earlier, just before we started this interview, actually. T. Martin, former Tennessee, the last guy to win a national championship at Tennessee, chose the University of South Carolina. Now, he had been on the Tennessee's coaching staff, but was poised to come back, chose USC, to stay at USC over returning to Tennessee. And has really done well, at USC. He's a great recruiter. Everybody knows that. Has been promoted to the offensive coordinator position. What do you think? Is he ready?
No, I don't know if he's ready, but as I say, I thought you said South Carolina. I think he's at Southern California.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, I don't know if he's ready. I mean, because Clay Helton, he was the play caller last year, before he got promoted and stuff like that. I've always known Coach Martin to be a rainmaker on the recruiting trail.
Right.
And I'm not extremely familiar with him as a play caller. I mean, and obviously, I'm not sure if Helton is doing this in a move to try to make sure he keeps him around, or is it going to be something that's just a title, or is he going to actually be calling plays? Because obviously, if he's actually going to be calling the plays, and he's good at it. I mean, he's going to be looking for, not for too long, he'll probably be looking for a head coaching job if everything goes well.
Right.
Because he can already recruit his butt off. He's already got that in spades. So, but I mean, we're going to see sooner or later. I think
we are.
We're going to. I think the big thing for USC is that they figured out, down the stretch, whenever Clay Helton took over, they figured out what they needed to do offensively. I mean, I think their biggest issue is on the defensive side of the ball. They got to get that fixed. From what I saw in that last game against Stanford. And I think they know that they're going to have to hand the ball off to young studs like Ronald Jones and people like that. Let them eat, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback now. I mean, I figured Max Brown's going to be their next man up with Kessler even. Well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, they're always going to be able to recruit at Southern Cal. They never have an issue with that. And I'm anxious to see what it's going to look like. I mean, they've whipped on these last two coaching hires, so they got to get something right. I mean, so we'll see what they do. Yeah,
it's a big decision for their AD, who came under a lot of fire during and USC. Deserved. Yeah, and USC is being sued. Steve Sarkisian is suing University of South Carolina, so there's definitely a lot at stake for that school and their program, not just on the football field, but ultimately in the court system over the next couple of years. It's not a bad move if they did promote T. Martin to the position, because again, you want to keep him. You know, you don't want to lose him, and you would have to think other schools are making those kinds of offers in an effort to lure him away.
Absolutely. And whenever, especially with the way the college football landscape is right now, they're absolutely trying to get as many recruiters on staff, guys like T. Martin, as they want. And like I said, it might have been just the move to make sure you kept him around, because especially as coaching staffs goes, you love continuity, and especially, I don't know who he's lead recruiter on, but that could have played a factor too. They, we got signing day coming up here, in a little bit, and you want to make sure you land the ballers come February 3rd or 4th, and he's going to be one of the main reasons why USC brings some guys in. So very curious to see. T. Martin did exactly what for the most part, exactly what Tennessee needed him to do in 1998, that year after Peyton Manning left, and they were the beneficiary of some really lucky breaks, but obviously, he's got a pedigree in college football, and that certainly helps. College football playoffs are finally here. We're in the second year of the playoff system. What do you think about the Final Four? Did they make the right decision? And give us your thoughts on the matchup. Oh, they couldn't screw it up this year. Everything kind of played out to the point where, like, 4 teams that are in it, there's no other way you could have had it. So this year they did. I'm still going to be a fan of whenever they get 8 teams in there.
Yeah.
Figure that out. The four teams in there, I'm perfectly okay with. And even though I was down on Michigan State early in the year because I wasn't really wowed by them, but they kind of came on down the line. They found a way to win some tough games, including even the Michigan game. Even the Michigan game, which was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in college football. They got that win. When you have wins on the road at Michigan, at Ohio State, and then you beat undefeated Iowa in the Big Ten title game, which was just old school smash mouth football. I mean, that's hard. You can't overlook that. So I think I would have much rather we saw a contrast in styles in the first couple of matchups. Like, I wish we could have seen Clemson versus like Michigan State and Oklahoma versus Alabama, rather than seeing Michigan State, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma. I wish we could have seen those two different contrasting styles, but it is what it is. We're gonna see like a spread team versus a more of a downhill, tough, physical, defensive team in the final anyway. So so we'll get what we want eventually.
Yeah.
So,
who do you think it's going to be eventually?
I think initially, oh man, I think it's going to be. I think Alabama's going to win the Michigan State game. And I'm having a hard time with the Clemson Oklahoma game, because I just felt whenever Oklahoma rolled in there, I said that's the team I wouldn't want to play right now, because they're playing their best football. They're hot. Baker Mayfield's playing really well. I mean, but at the same time, they got to play Clemson, who has just found ways to win every week. I mean, it's not like they've been skating by either. I mean, they can score a lot of points. Defense isn't bad. They can play. I mean, which I'm going to be watching their defensive line versus Oklahoma's offensive line, because that was one of Oklahoma's weaknesses earlier in the year that I noticed, especially when in the Texas game. That was one of their fatal flaws, why Texas could end up winning that ball game, because they were able to get pressure and get to Baker Mayfield. So I'm going to be watching that closely. If I had to say it right now, I'm going to say Clemson barely. But man, ask me again when the ball is going to kick off. I might change it. It's going to be a good game.
I'm so excited about that game. Dabo Swinney has done a fantastic job at Clemson. There's no other way to spin that one.
He's really good. He's a really good coach. He's a really good recruiter. I mean, if I had to say that, that's another reason why I wouldn't be exactly giddy about going to the South Carolina job, because it's going to be a real hard time recruiting against him right now.
It really is. What do you make of Steve Spurrier and his resignation and all of that mess?
One of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And
I know.
I'm really not on board, with coaches kind of just bailing out in the middle of the year. Whether it was a personal decision, whether it was an administration decision, I don't really like stuff like that. If you're gonna resign during the year, or or if you're gonna resign, it was inevitable that you're gonna leave. Just ride it out. Let it go. Let it be a farewell tour. You're gonna go out. Everybody knows it. Team may play hard for you. You might squeeze out a couple more wins, But bailing abruptly midseason, I don't see how any good could have come of that. You know, that's like we were talking earlier. Just what if like a star player decided middle of the season, like say they had like an injury, you know, that they weren't sure that they wanted to come back from, it, to be like, you know what, I don't want to come back because, you know, I want to save myself for the NFL. What if a player did that? That bailed on the team mid-year like that? You know, people will be killing them. You know, so I don't see.
It's really interesting.
It should be any different.
I had Lisa Horn on the show right around the time that went down, and she said it would not surprise her if there were not NCAA issues or something else lurking out there. We haven't heard anything, or at least I haven't heard anything, but it was very odd, just very, very, very strange. And in college hoops, I was just floored by Bo Ryan, the Bo Ryan situation.
Yeah, that's strange too.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So, Coach Seahorn, thank you again so much for joining me. Tell everybody out there where they can find you on social media.
Oh, well, you can find me at Coach Seahorn on Twitter, and I write for BSO. And if you want to ever see any of my college football thoughts, and, you know, or any sports thoughts, really, you can find me there. And be looking out for the Cover 3 podcast coming soon. Coming real soon, guys.
Awesome.
Be checking for that.
Awesome. Very, very, very good. Well, have a great day.
All right. Thank you. You do the same. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye.